the way, I got a little bit more to go over. Gonna play a 1-minute video here of today. I was harvesting a couple alchemy experiments I had set outside before it freezes for the winter here, and brought in and harvested one reaction of a process that I was setting up for the second time of recreating this aluminum translucent clear aluminum gel crystal nanomaterial. And shout out to Joshua Bertrand, wherever he is, hopefully still alive. He did have cancer, haven't seen him around in a while, but him stating that I appeared to be only the second person in history to reproduce this nanomaterial, the first being some mining processing company out in Salmon Arm, BC, doing it with zinc as an industrial byproduct they accidentally created. Point being, I did it. I got it. I've got samples of it, and I documented it, and here it is for those who have yet to see. And hilariously, that looks pretty bad. It almost looks like it could be drugs on a phone or rolling up a joint, but no, it is none of that. The exact opposite right here. This, you can see the droplet aspect right here, as well as like crystal shard parts out here. It fell off the aluminum rod. There's more on here. And yeah, let's see if you can hear it as I let it play. Let me know if there's sound. All right, we've paused it right here so that you can see there's this clear like teardrop aspect of it, but it's crystallized jelly, and that up here you actually see these shards of crystal. And that I brought this in. This wasn't when I took it outside, like I didn't take it out of ice. It's not below freezing zero. And that this wasn't salt water. This is fresh water that this process I have using in. So it's not salt either. This is actually pure aluminum coming off of the aluminum cathode or electrode in it. And that you can see here, it is a jelly. That's not water, that is not salt, and that is definitely not ice. That is pure aluminum jelly crystal here. And here's another piece, and you can see this piece, and that there's a couple pieces up on the paper even, and that it's not water absorbing into paper, it's not ice that's melting. This is pure, clear, translucent nano metal material. All right, so paused it again here, and you can still clearly see these shard aspects, still this drop, and that it's like balancing off of the phone screen. Like it's not like splishing out, it's not like a liquid, it's literally gelled and crystallized into a solid, and that it is clear and translucent nano metal material. And right here as well, you can see still on the aluminum rod. So yes, this is like the building blocks of aerogel. That's what makes this stuff absolutely so important, and that essentially you'll be able to dry it out and 3D print it, and also layer it, nano layer coat, metamaterial superconductive outer and inner pieces and coatings and shells and whatnot of different superconductive anti-gravitic engines, drives, and stuff like that. That's what makes this so valuable. It's kind of similar. Other processes are more similar to the Hutchinson effect, Hans, but that there are certain aspects, yeah, like the jellification, liquefaction, but of Hutchinson's samples and processes, but it was more that it did it to the solid. It didn't leave it in these specific states. It like eroded it like that, I believe. So, and not sure. So I've been a bit wrong about specifically what colloidal silver is. The exact terminology of colloidal silver is nano. It's the little nano particles. So, like, essentially the oxidized blue nanomaterial, as well as like the red, the hydrides, as well as the tiny pieces of silver that are still solid chunks that remain like as a substrate that actually is the definition of colloidal and colloidal silver and colloidal metals, and that's why they're least healthy. That's why actual colloidal silver is so controversial, risky, and a lot of cases of poisoning, is the specific reason that a lot of colloidal silver is the oxidized diatomic, which will give you very quickly high accumulations of heavy metal poison and kill you and turn you blue. The good stuff is what is known as ionic silver. Ionic silver, and that is actually what I'm creating, and that is the pure dissolved silver in the water. And that I might even, so when I do the process, and when I do it in the fresh distilled water, and I've been able to it takes longer, but I've developed a process to do it without an electrolyte, just in pure drinking water, when the reaction, it gets to a point that it super saturates, that so much of that silver or so much of that gold anode is fully dissolved into the water, and that metal that is pure element dissolved into the water, that's in its ionic state. And that is when it says it's able to be directly absorbed into the blood, directly absorbed into everything and out of the water. So I actually am able to create and have and can recreate any time of process of 1,000,000 parts per million of water to ionic gold or ionic silver in that water. And then after that, it becomes super saturated and it starts redissolving, solidifying, crystallizing as these nanocrystal layered sheets, the nanocrystal lattice layers, another crucial nanomaterial. And that's how you get that, the metal nano sheet layering from electrolysis, is once the water is fully supersaturated of the metal you're dissolving into it. And that from a medical, experimental, and industrial technology, real world use academic point, it is the ionic metal that is the most important. And then above that, which still isn't really even fully classified, because it's still in the midst of being myth, legend, David Hudson, as well as Lawrence Gardner, the two most prolific sources of monoatomic material, what I believe quantum material, this gas atom nanosolid state, as Keshe calls it, Ormus, as David Hudson calls it, orbitally rearranged monoatomic electron structure, I think is ORMES is what his acronym for it is. And that so in this monoatomic material, the water is at least in the tens of thousands, probably hundreds of thousands, if not some of it is the ionic saturation of full metal saturation along with the monoatomics in it. And that is what makes this stuff so absolutely powerful, incredible. And then we've got the purple state of monoatomic gold, a plasmid cluster, and that I've got it in that, also done it in silver as well as in zinc in the purple state too. Shout Bernie, what other metals do you see expressing in these, or are these isolated? No, these are isolated. So when there's mixtures of them, it's because I've created it intentionally with a pure source of copper plus a pure source of zinc plus a pure source of gold or silver or whatever it is. And then when I claim something is pure monatomic gold, for instance, it's isolated. I've made it in distilled water with 24 karat gold anode, 24 karat gold cathode. That's the only metals going into this distilled water, thus 100% isolated, confirmed that that's what those are. Therefore, when saying that this right here is guaranteed isolated 24 or pure, aluminum, that's because I know that it is, and I created it as such, with the only possibility of it being pure aluminum, and that is the pure aluminum crystal clear. All right, all right, all right. So that's pretty sweet, and I have a couple samples. Sure, let me know, but paused it here to show that there is these nanotube structures of this monoatomic zinc in this case that have grown here. There's a still piece of zinc right there, and the rest of the former zinc anode had eroded, but then I put in a new piece of zinc metal as new anode back behind here on this side to reactivate this reactor jar. And I should be zooming up here in a moment, and it'll show also a bunch of translucent zinc as well as copper monoatomic or metal, some sort of nano metal material that is clear and see-through, but also how it self-structures, organizes, builds structures, layers, as well as then exclusion zones of water, and how the charge and electromagnetism builds, organizes itself, and structures itself throughout. And that this is a very crucial key part of electrochemistry, as well as what geology is, metallurgy, and, well, the future of understanding how to make these metamaterials, crystals, anything you need, right? And something, as well as specifically in this reaction, a whole bunch of atomic hydrogen you'll be seeing produced, which is the purest form of hydrogen fuel, and that this is only off of a 5-volt source. So, something essentially, you have a few solar panels on a roof of a vehicle, and feeding into a bunch of these, that would be more than enough to power this process. And literally, the sun turning your water into hydrogen, oxygen fuel that then combusts in your engine and powers and drives and fuels your vehicles. Very practical, and from what I've heard and seen others do, rather simple and easy process to do hybrid vehicles and modify certain older gas and diesel vehicles into using this. So there's a lot of potential behind this, and why I continue to develop it. And I do a lot more. I'm a lot more advanced with it. What I've discovered, the processes, and what I show than what I show fully publicly, because for the simple aspect of don't want to be Stan Myered over this. But in the background, working on a project to actually materialize my own hybrid hydrogen electrolysis vehicle here in the next year or so, start getting it going and operating. But yeah, and it's also, it's plasma chemistry, it's electrochemistry, and it's cold fusion like atomic chemistry as well, all put together. And yeah, let me continue this video. Can you hear it? Okay, so we pause it here again to show that. So this is like, this is water, this is exclusion zone, and then from above the anode, we had the nano tubes that formed down, built down, and then this translucent structure all the way down to bottom, connecting to this bottom layer of monoatomic material that rests about an inch above the bottom of the jar, creating one exclusion zone at the very base of the jar, a layer of monoatomics, then an alternated other inch of exclusion zone, clear water. So when I say exclusion zone, it's excluded from any other particles whatsoever, whether it be a gas such as oxygen or hydrogen, or a monoatomic, or a particulate, any nanomaterials whatsoever. It is simply pure water, and it's charged water. Shout out to Gerald Pollack, I believe University of Washington or something like that, Washington State, somewhere around there. But him documenting the different states of water, and how it self-organizes into positive, negative, alternating charged layers of water itself, becoming structured batteries and stuff. And that I have demonstrated and observed these results over and over again, and here you see it. And that below this self-organized structure of different tubes, layers, clear, thank you, Quodentin, uh, right? I got to get an interview with Gerald Pollack as well to show him everything I have documented and discovered, as I'm sure he would be thrilled to see, as so much of it confirms his own work. Oh yeah, this stuff 100%, and this stuff is the key for superconductivity. There's the potential that the clear material as well as the white materials that they are metastate, they are plasma state, they are potential quantum physical matter, quantum matter. So what's missing in all these quantum, being able to apply and build quantum computers, quantum technology for the masses today is a shortage of quantum matter, four-state matter. Well, that's apparently what all of this stuff is. And if that is actually documented and to be the case, well, that's why it's so crucial. Mr. Bernie Conkin here, the crypto alchemist, BurnEye, Mind's Third Eye, ScienceGuy, does this properly and gets the commercial patent, because literally, if this is quantum material and I have developed all these different processes of manufacturing this quantum material at extremely cheap and efficient processes of making it, that, there's a potential that NASA, Boeing, freaking Foxconn over in Taiwan that makes the processors, IBM, every freaking company would be paying me like a couple percentage or something out of everything that they make to use this stuff, right? Like that could end up millions, billions of dollars. One hopes. As opposed to my teasing me daily scam coin, Galabet's Casino, 32 billion in my crypto wallet that I can't cash out. Right? But shout out to Bitcoin, still hovering around 90K US, doing a little bit of retracement as is normal, probably going higher. Solana going 220 US. And so one thing that absolutely crushed me as well, that when I sold the bottom with my Solana and thought that I hadn't and that I had like bought back in, I also, for some fucking moronic reason, I literally sold, I think, like 1,000 minimum of radium tokens that I had. I was big into radium. I will be going back showing radium. Radium is a like exchange slash ray there. If it will focus on it, radium. It is a Solana liquidity pool and exchange and staking site app thing, but it's also a coin. And it's like I sold them for like 14 or like 15 cents each, and I had 1,000 of them. They're now worth like $4.78 US. Like absolutely ridiculous. Right there in the year since I sold the bottom, is that showing? It's got a gain of over 1,000. Okay, 1,000x. And it's like I had been if you followed me in the first year and a half, you can even go back on my channel. The crypto videos I did was using Solana, was using Radium, showing it all. Yeah, it's also a DEX. It's a whole bunch of things. Radium's dope. And that I will be doing videos going back and showing how to stake on Radium, how to exchange on Radium, the different aspects of it, and engaging it again. And I do have a little bit of Solana left, but currently it's a couple thousand, I think, still. So that's dollars worth, which a little bit of a consolation, but it should have been 10 or 15,000 between the Solana and Radium and what's the cycle and how it goes, and why Solana has gone up so much and why it crashed so much. It crashed so bad because of scam, right? So that's, Sam, that's a great question. The one that I find best is I use Exodus for my overall, as well as MetaMask are both good ones. And Exodus I like a lot. And MetaMask, to be honest, but it depends. Like Ethereum and Binance or BNB stuff, as well as like Polygon. That's what MetaMask is for. And then for such as Bitcoin, Solana, XRP, XLM, Hydera, any Avalanche, Exodus wallets. I recommend absolutely. And I myself have $1 billion crypto project idea that I am going to be pitching to some people that hopefully can make it happen. I can't say too much right now, but it's going to be one that offers services for crypto. So basically, a crypto that converts your crypto to pay as cash in the now, and it's going to be like called Now Crypto or In the Now Crypto, because now in the now you can spend your crypto for real world things. That's what it's going to be about, and I'm gonna make it happen. Anyways, enough of that. Back to metamaterials. So you got all right, in behind the yellow DeWalt battery thing on the middle left side of the Alchemist minions there, that Classico jar, which you can see it's that same aluminum pipe there that I had pictured in the first video with the clear translucent gel crystal aluminum. There's the sample. In the bottom of the jar, you can see this orange cleared out pill container that contains, sealed in it, the actual samples of that same gel crystal aluminum material, as well as then above it, sealed within the jar, is then the aluminum pipe or electrode that has the remaining shout out to PMG, my man Josh. Is Joji still with them? Love PMG, and he is on it. It's like I was killing it with PMG. I was just been so depressed because I fucked up all my Solana and Radium. Thought I had bought back in. Sat there for months watching it going up, being like, "Yeah, my money going up, my money," and then finally checking it, and it was already at like Solana back at 100. And I'm like, "Oh my god!" I've been depressed over it. Been depressed, but it's time to get back in it. It's time to make it happen, and enough of crypto for today. Looking at the metamaterials. What else? What else did I have to show play for all of you today? 53 minutes of 45 seconds in. Maybe we will go with some pictures. Yeah, pictures of alchemy sound good. Let's give some demonstrations of different experiment projects that I have designed, documented, put out some more real science. Now, is this picture going to load? Here we go. Just slow. It's just slow. That's all. Is that? Maybe. Hopefully. Okay. Yeah, we got some good ones. All right, we got some good reference materials coming up here. Just needing a slow arse computer to load. There we go. Let's share. Now, what do we have here? What? Oh, is it presenting? Oh, just super slow. There we go. She's up. What are we looking at here? We, aka what Bert and Ernie, and the Alchemist minions, aka my split personalities and I, came up with in this design is a saltwater slash monatomic slash hydrogen self-sustained battery cell. And what we have here was a triple copper wire solenoid coil with four, so positive, negative, or sorry, three. So there's the one main insulated wire down that then is stripped at the bottom and becomes exposed at the very bottom. Then there's two other stripped coils, but they were all nano-coated to begin with. And then they're connected with insulated wires, positive, negative, and the third one going up and into a sealed top portion, but out of water segment of this battery jar bottle reactor. But so the water line's right here. And then, so above the water are then connected, these insulated wires connect into another triple copper solenoid Keshi, what he calls pain pens, but they're essentially like little capacitor reactor solenoid things they make back down, so that there's three different wires into both of the two coils, and they were nano coated, and that they were connected by insulated wires together. And by doing so, so then there's the differential that is created. You got three different electrical power differentials that are connected to each other in these two coils, by one being submerged at the very bottom of the water, and then one being slightly submerged and then also exposed out of the sealed or in the water in the sealed atmosphere of the jar. And that by having those three different connections and differentials, this, you can see here all of this monoatomic copper being formed for a while. So this electrolysis process going on, and then also a whole bunch, not a whole bunch, but a steady rate of hydrogen was bubbling up off of this coil. And it was for a solid year that this reaction continued on in here, of it making the white monoatomic as well as the hydrogen being produced off of it. So a actual electrolysis cell, self-sustained electrolysis cell going off for over a year. And now you see this copper is like in the pink state, and the black nano coating coming off of it while submerged in the water, and it turning into that crystalline state. And also all the monoatomic copper that is then collected and produced or accumulated over the time there. So it was a rate of monoatomics coming off and hydrogen going up, self-sustained reaction there. Here in this one, we have red and pink states, submerged copper, sealed in stasis in this red state in a jar there that's been sealed now for about 7-8 years. And that there's this thick, it's about 3 or 4 millimeters thick now. It's both black crystal as well as the pink red crystal of copper and silver that are in this jar and in this state, but completely sealing off the surface of the water. And then like it's in a sealed jar and there's some air above it, but that it has built this crystalline structured seal between, separating the gas, air, and the crystallized active red pink state of the metals below. And then on the very top of it, a small almost like, I'd say, 1/10 of a millimeter thick blue oxidized copper silver deposit. You see it looks much larger on the side here because it's on the glass, but actually on the surface it just is like almost like a foil thickness, where below it what seems like only 1/3 in size, that black purple reddish layer here, that in fact is solid. So this goes through, is actually a solid layer at the top of the water, and then just this very tiny green blue is just a foil on the surface, but it's also a foil on the surface of the glass going up. That's why it looks much larger when in fact exponentially smaller in mass and size. Yes, please. And the Mormons big into alchemy and actual lab alchemy, especially at the University of Salt Lake in Utah there. Or is it University Utah or Salt? Maybe both. I don't know. Either way, read many writings, theses, experiments, results, and publications of from the Utah universities doing actual electrochemical lab alchemy. All right, where are we going with these pictures? We got some more pink state copper suspended, as well as this is actually red state aluminum in here. Red pink state aluminum. It is also very reactive. Couple of pink state oxidized outside, inside, pink red state coils there. Suspended animation nano coatings and states of metals. And why I keep bringing it up, and no, that is not drugs, that is monoatomics. Always, yeah, it's samples, still have the samples. Hopefully I don't get raided by the government, not the police, but rather like special labs or something, CSIS, who knows. But the stuff are samples that I will be sending to actual scientific labs. Don't confiscate it as national security, and it is not drugs. You can come test it. Don't knock down my door. I will happily surrender some for any lab that wants to test this stuff. And finding out what it is. This is a bunch of black crystallized material that forms as well. And all sorts of these different transmutational states of metal elements that Sir Isaac Newton talks about, and that I've been consistently reproducing and demonstrating and developing and rediscovering what they all are. And the monoatomic, fluffy, white metal, gold, and silver that I make and harvest and keep. So here we go. Here, and then once this jar, this reactor, it was making the pure white, doing the bubbling, and was solid for a year active. And then one day I moved it, I bumped it and disturbed it. And from that day forward, it no longer was bubbling. It has been bubbling since, no longer making nanotubes, and it's only oxidized and gone bluer and darker, more and more oxidized blue ever since. And yeah, it's quite common reaction. Here we got a couple of the purple layered materials. That was the purple zinc. Here we do have, so this is like minus 30 degrees Celsius sort of stuff to freeze some of the electrolysis and the different nanomaterials. And then even in the freezing ice, just by connecting 5 volts back to it, it starts melting the water and producing hydrogen again, and just wild that you wouldn't think it would have that success in that frozen of aspects. So this right here, this was wild. This was what looks like ice, but it is not. These were crystal. This was the nano material freezing or crystallizing, not freezing, crystallizing. So it was zinc, silver, and copper mixture of nanomaterial I had here, monoatomics, that out in the minus 30, before the water froze, the actual monoatomics crystallized, and then I harvested these crystal monoatomics. I brought them in, I rinsed them with fresh, warm, hot water, and they maintained. I let them out in like in the heat, thaw, like as if to thaw them. They did not melt. It was not water ice. It was the monoatomics that turned into that. And then they oxidized off and turned into white powder. And I've documented it well. The silver moon crystals video, I called it, and shown them before. And here we go. So that is the ionic gold. This is super saturated gold that is then will deposit and crystallize as solid crystal foil gold on the inside of the jar as it seeps out of the water. And then this settles as the pure monoatomic white gold. And then the water that remains is the fully saturated ionic gold. And in this one, ionic silver. But here you can see the actual super saturated gold, the ionic gold, and the monoatomic gold, and the differences between them. And this was after I harvested it out of the reaction. This is a sealed jar, and that it then takes time. And here you can see at the bottom the monoatomic gold starting to condense, concentrate, and that it's actually, so this ionic supersaturated portion of gold in gold water is denser and thus heavier than the single atom fluffy plasma monoatomic gold there. Very crucial point in understanding the science and the process and what it is and the technology of it. And so these little black pieces and the actual gold pieces that corroded off of the gold anode that came with it, that is what colloidal gold is, or colloidal silver. So that's the difference of the 3 different states of the pure gold or the pure silver or whatever pure element that you have. This one was a pure silver cathode, pure gold 10-gram gold anode, and both turning black nano-coated. But here you can see the cloud of pure monoatomic gold coming off of that anode, and then here you can see the cloud of pure monoatomic silver coming off of the silver cathode, forming off of it, and then this big line of both ionic as well as monoatomic gold flowing down off of the gold anode and collecting and forming and condensing at the bottom there. And that is the process of making the philosopher's stone. Silver cathode, gold anode, boom, your monoatomic gold and silver combo, and your ionic gold and silver combo. And oh my God, right there, that is actually, I can't believe I got the picture of, that was a piece of the bottom of the gold bar, I believe, of the anode breaking off and floating down in the stream of the ionic, nano, and monoatomic gold there. I actually still have that little piece of gold. Let's just so you don't believe that I'm making this up and claiming something that is not true. Here we go for all of you to see that I do indeed tell the truth. There is that same little piece of gold, the bottom of that 10-gram anode that is in this very same picture here. There it is. I can't believe I caught that. Same thing, the picture of the moment that it fell off and went down in there. But there it is. All right, pretty cool. Just the things you notice when you go back afterwards. And what you've documented. So that there, obviously a reflection, but this being part of the black nano gold stuff that came off of the anode, cathode, gold, and silver. And sorry, so this is to go back, this was a second reaction that I set up where it was silver and gold. This harvested monoatomic gold and ionic gold. It was the first reaction that I did, and it was a silver gold anode and a silver gold cathode. But I literally used up half, like I think of 5 or 6 grams of the pure 24 karat gold anode in this reaction, and that is why I was only able to run one run of the pure gold on gold 24 karat monatomic ionic gold, because, well, it's priced gold and I don't have that gold, and I still got to get half of this back to Francois Vandal. Shout out to Francois. I still have your section of the jars of the stuff set aside, actually right next to these guys right here. Let's see. Well, it's to the right of them. No, behind Bert and Ernie there. There's one jar blocking it, but that jar is yours. But then there's 5 others of the pure purple gold and white gold and nano gold jars that I got to ship to you, Francois, good sir, that got this. All right, I shipped them the first half, need to ship the second half is what it is. Here you go. So to the very right side, you see a couple bottles there, and they're actually purple, and they actually have some gold, nano gold on them. Let me show you. Still sitting here, still documenting, and so you can see this layer that still remains of actual gold and purple gold. You can see the actual crystal gold up here. That's still this nano gold that was the supersaturated ionic gold that crystallized and formed, and then all of the purple gold at the bottom. That is one of Francois' bottles to be shipped. Still got to do that. My apologies, sir. Another one of what turned to the black purple gold. Another one that turned of the silver. And there's one or two more there, I believe, of the silver that I also must get back out to you, good sir Francois Vandal, one of the people that have made it possible for me to do these experiments, and the owner to some of that wonderful plasma, monatomic gold, and from these experiments right here that you are seeing. All right, what else was there? Yes, I've tried magnesium once. It was super reactive, but it's a bit of a heavier of the metals, and that it was not nearly as bad as what I felt about lead. Lead will make you dead. It made me feel dead. It drained when you feel like the worst weight on your shoulders, like this crushing gravity of force, and all of like your life force sucked out of you. If you know what I'm talking about, like just when you feel like that, or you have something like that, like this energy vampire might do it to you. A hard day at work might do it to you. When you're extremely sick or something like that, doing it to you. Anyways, lead, making monoatomic lead, and being around that stuff just for 1 hour literally makes you the worst case I've ever felt like that. My dog at the time also acting and seeming and having the exact same effects as myself, and it's because it is a part of cold fusion in these heavier isotopes of the heavier metals. When you make them into these different states and different ions and ion states, the heavier ones start decaying certain amounts of them, and that with magnesium it wasn't nearly as bad, but you risk having a higher percentage of radioactive isotopes being produced out of the different elements, and that then so it's like it was cool, it was super reactive, but it's risky, and long term you just don't want to have yourself exposed around it. Like I'd love to and plan on experimenting with like cobalt, with magnesium ore, and even lead, but in proper lab environments, and not in my own garage at the time, or my backyard, or my basement of my family home at the moment. It's like it's wild, it's cool, but certain things will risk to kill you, and those are some of them, and it's wild stuff. All right, what else can we show? This picture of some of the pure monoatomic silver. After harvesting, it was a silver maple anode, silver maple cathode reaction that made this one, and then harvested, and you can see, boom, pure monoatomic silver. So that is million part per million solid single state atom silver, and then this cloudy clear water of silver is the ionic silver dissolved in the water simultaneously, and more of the monatomic stuff, and the stuff at the bottom even looking a bit translucent there. It's, and here you see most of it floating, very little at the bottom. And the first couple rinses that you do after harvesting this stuff, usually the majority will actually stay at the top and remain at the top, and just slowly after each rinse, separating from the atomic hydrogen, and condensing, collecting at the bottom. But and then by like the 9th or 10th rinse, as you get the salt out, and then involve in creating ionic silver or gold water, that is what I actually drink myself and use on, have been using for years on the agricultural plants experiments and stuff. The monoatomic material will always go to the bottom, no longer floating at the top. makes your plug. What makes your pea glow in the dark? Cobalt, B12. What? B12 infinite energy glitch. Something I'm gonna have to try out. See you soon.
You crazy mother. Yeah.